Hello Internet, this is Dan with Arcadegame.tech, and today I'm bringing you a mild tutorial on the Pandora's Box 9. And what the Pandora's Box is of course, this is a multi-game system that is, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000, I don't remember how many games they are. They keep changing it on me. But what we have here is we're putting it into an arcade cabinet. This is a traditional 19-inch generic arcade cabinet that I've been wiring. Apologies, the wires are not dressed yet because this is really just being done in testing right now. But we have everything working, so I thought I might as well shoot this video. I wanted to go over because there's not a lot of documentation for these. So there's a couple of things that you can look at right off. One, the basic overall shell. This is a JAMA board. Now, just because it is a JAMA board, there are a couple of quirks about the Pandora's Box 9 that we'll go into later. But number one, of course, you've got your video outputs. Your video outputs come out in either HDMI or straight SVGA. The SVGA is my choice in this case because I'm wiring it to an original arcade monitor. Above that you have, of course, the audio output, so if you want to run that to an amp and get some really killer sound in here, you can. There is a separate volume control right here. That's this little wheel here. So this actually helps. On some models there will be USB ports here that allow you to put a jump drive in. This is not one of those models. They left that part of the board bare. And this right here is your menu button. Now, if you're wanting to go into test mode, you can hold this button in for 5 seconds. Just hold it in and count to 5, and it will bring you to the test menu. This will allow you to set up your custom controls, edit your games list, delete games, the whole 9 yards. So basically the Pandora box is fairly simple plug-and-play JAMA, although there are a few caveats to that. Number one is, okay, so I'm going to take this and rotate up. We have this connected to just a standard power supply. This is the same power supply that you'll find in any arcade cabinet. It puts out 5 and 12. Now, the Pandora box does not use -5, but if you have a cabinet that's pre-wired JAMA, it won't hurt it. Okay, it won't harm it at all to leave the -5 there. All that does is that terminates to nothing, so it doesn't do anything. So as you can see, we have the -5 wired because, down the road, hey, I might decide to take this Pandora box out and put something else in that uses -5. Okay, you have the standard 19-inch CRT. This is a Wells Gardner 19-inch CRT, and it's very basic. You'll see this in a lot of cabinets, but they're good. They're good monitors. I mean, they're easily one of the most serviceable monitors you're going to find. Up here is something that I picked up from Amazon. It's called an McBasil. Don't ask me how to spell it. There's no documentation on these things either, but what it does is it basically takes your SVGA signal here, puts it into the board, and pipes out CGA, for which the arcade monitor, of course, can handle. So you take this out, come around, and this is wired directly into the connectors for the monitor. And the screen resolution works fine. It's piping out at 15 kilohertz. So the reason I point that out is, again, because the Pandora's box does not feed out CGA video signal on the JAMA harness. They stopped doing that back in the, I want to say, 4 or 5 series. You're going to need that solution for arcade monitors. Either that, or you can rip out the arcade monitor and put in a flat panel LCD. Me personally, I prefer the CGAs. That's just me. Makes it feel a little more authentic, even though we know it really isn't. It's something. But this board's not very expensive. This was $20. Now, up here I have pinned the pinouts for the Pandora's Box 9 and a standard JAMA pinout with actually the Neo Geo reference points on it, just in case, because Neo Geo is common but not a standard JAMA either. As you can see, in both of these, the grounds on the first 4 pins, A, B, 1, and 2, these are normal. And all of your other connections are going to be standard JAMA here, with the exception of right here at part side B, pin 24. Okay, at part side B, pin 24, that usually is the last button on any standard JAMA. So if you're wiring in your button switches, this is button number 3. This is the last one. On traditional JAMA harnesses, these are not fed. These are not fed. So this is where you're going to run into some difference between the Pandora's Box and the standard JAMA harness, and you're going to need to address it, because if you don't, it's going to act up. Now, there are people that sell the adapters on the internet. You know, if you want to do that, that's fine. It doesn't bother me. I mean, hey, you know, it's a simple plug and play. But honestly, there's only really one thing you got to change, per se. These buttons, if you have wires in buttons 4, 5, and 6's slots on the JAMA harness, and we'll look at that in a second, you can rewire these straight to the buttons 4, 5, and 6. The one thing you'll notice on the back is on traditional JAMA, you've got 4 grounds: 27E, 28F. Those are all 4 of those are regular grounds. They're control grounds. And on the Pandora, 27E has been changed to button 6. So if you plug this into a standard JAMA cabinet, your button wire for button F, I believe, will be straight to ground. It's going to always read as closed because it's actually tying back to the ground in the system. So you need to change that. So now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to power this off. I'm going to show you the harness. Let me see. Okay. Now, fortunately, we have a labeled harness here. Not all harnesses are labeled, but you can see it's a standard JAMA harness. So there's your pin 1, there's your grounds, your 5 volts. And this is nice because this is easy to just look at and be, all right, so this is pretty standard. Some of these will show up as NC on the Pandora Box JAMA because they don't go anywhere. It doesn't matter if you leave those wires connected. They're not going to do anything. But you see these 4 spare. So here's switch 1, button 2, button 3, spare and spare. Spare and spare is empty. There's no pins in there. And then it looks like the ground, and then the last ground. This is pin F, or button F, I should say, and that's empty too. So there are 4 button wires that are not put in here. So you're like, well, what am I going to do? Do I need to buy the adapter? What's going to happen? Well, if you buy the adapter, you're still going to be in the same place where you were before because there's no wires there. There's no contacts. So what you're going to do is you're going to extract these pins. There is actually a tool, and I want you to look it up on Amazon. It's called pin extractors. Okay, and these are called pin extractors, and there's a set of them for like $8, and there's like 40 of them. And they're all different sizes for edge connectors and for Molex connectors, and they're just called pin extractors. And you go in and you push them in this little slot right behind the wire, and it ejects the pin, wire and all. So what I do when I do this is I will take other spots on the harness, like, for example, R, S, and 15. These are all no connection on the Pandora harness. So if I go to these, so this is no connection here. Yeah, so that's There we go. So between coin 1 and video ground, which you can see coin 1 and video ground here, that's pin 15. It shows no connection. Well, on the JAMA harness, it's test wire. It doesn't do anything. Not on the Pandora system. So you can eject that pin and use that wire, and you can actually reinsert the pin over here at the other end of the connector. And there's multiple spots on there that you can use. So like H, J, and K, which are on the part side, or solder side, I'm sorry, H, J, and K. So these are right over here. The counter, the locks, on both sides of this harness, these are ejectable. So we just rob other parts of the harness to get us complete pins and wires and reinsert them down here and then run your buttons to those wires. Yes, this will permanently change your JAMA harness. But the thing is that if you plug another JAMA board into this harness after you do that, you're not going to actually hurt anything. Your board will not smoke. It will not fry. This is not what it does, because none of these carry voltage. The only places that you got to worry about on a JAMA harness or on a Pandora's box harness is these black wires, these red wires, these blue wires, and these orange wires. These are the only ones that carry board smoking voltage, and even the black wires don't because they're grounds. The red wire is your +5, the blue wire is your -5, and the yellow wire is your 12 volt. You get those in the wrong place and your board's going toasty. Now, the good news is like this one has a key. That little white notch is a key. So you can't actually put this harness in backwards. Some JAMA harnesses do not have keys. So just accept that. Some of them just don't. But that's how you repin this JAMA harness. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here and make a second one showing the movements of the pins after I have finished. Alright, so stay tuned, guys.